you master this tool and be so faithful and obedient and grow with this tool from when you don't have it to when you have a lot of it in a way that you can literally be a blessing for people, because you're blessed to be a blessing. God doesn't say I'm going to bless you so that you can keep it and do you. No, you're blessed to be a blessing.
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I'm your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Hey, Mompreneurs, and welcome back to the show. Today, we have a Turquoise Talk guest. Her name is Janine Mix, and it's a great episode. It's on a topic we haven't talked about here on the podcast in a little while. And so I was really, really intrigued by her story. Her energy is just amazing. Her faith is incredible. So I am so excited for you to dive into this episode. We could have talked for hours because this topic is super important on wealth, on money mindset. And I just don't think as women, we talk about it enough. And so again, her and I could have talked for hours because she's just super comfortable and easy to talk to. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a Christian entrepreneur and author of a best-selling book. She's also a speaker who transformed her life from $120,000 in debt to becoming a multimillionaire by the age of 33. Pretty incredible. She's also a podcast host of Permission to Prosper podcast, and she empowers women to break free from restrictive money habits. How many of you feel restrictive in your money habits? And to help you to embrace financial confidence and build generational wealth. So she is on the podcast today to share her journey and to inspire bold, strategic action for your financial freedom. So without further ado, grab your earbuds and your favorite beverage and let's dive in. Well, welcome back, friends. I'm so excited. Today's Turquoise Talk guest, Janine Mix. I told her before we started recording, I loved her name. It's the coolest name ever. And she's here to talk about a really fun topic. We're going to talk about money today, which I know for some of you, you might be breaking out in hives just thinking about that. But it's something that we haven't talked a ton about here on the podcast. And so when I got your request to come on, I'm like, yes, and especially this time of year while people are thinking about new year and new goals, let's talk about money a little bit here. So Janine, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it is like one of those topics you're told not to talk about. It's like, you don't talk about sports, religion, and money. And I'm like, no. So I'm here to break that. I'm here to help you not break out in hives when you think about the word budget. So I'm really excited to share some insight with your audience today. And I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your family, how you got into the business and the entrepreneurship that you're doing today.
Yeah. Well, I'll start at the beginning. I grew up in a pretty typical middle-class family, like nothing too spectacular. I didn't grow up with wealth and definitely grew up in a family. My mom was actually a banker for like 25 years, but still didn't really teach me about money or talk about money. In my family, I knew that money was a stressor when we didn't have it. You know, it was the topic of argument sometimes between my parents. I mean, very, very typical. And so I didn't grow up with money. I didn't learn about money, and no one is born knowing about money and learning about money. But I definitely learned about entrepreneurship from my parents. My mom started a small business and had that for about 10 years, and she absolutely loved it. And I joke that while my friends were playing video games, I was learning QuickBooks and learning how to buy and learning the retail business. She had a retail business. And so that's where I really started to get the entrepreneurial bug. I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at selling. In fact, I was horrible at selling. I remember my mom left one time and went to run an errand at the bank, which was not very far from the store. And I'm like 8 years old working in my mom's shop, which is like, I think borderline child labor, but it's okay. At least now you could like pay them.
My dad was an entrepreneur too, so I get it. I'm just
Yeah.
like the salad bar girl. I was the buster. I
Yeah.
was the waitress. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. And so I remember she left me this one time and this customer walks in and I'm like, what do I say? And I remember being like, oh, hi, welcome in. If you're looking for anything, don't bother to ask. And I realized that I said, don't bother to ask instead of don't hesitate to ask because she very quickly got angry and left. And I was like, oh no, I just ruined my mom's entire business. This woman's going to go tell everybody how rude I am. And so I really was like very shy when it came to business and sales and very timid for a very long time because of experiences like that. And I ended up getting the typical advice after high school. You just go to college, get a good job. The problem was I wanted to be an actress and I didn't want to go to college. And my parents were like, okay, but maybe you should go to college for a real job.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but I don't have money for a college. Do you have money for me for college? And when I was 8 years old, I was also in a car accident, a really bad car accident. My mom had to have the jaws of life cut her out. It was a near death experience. My mom was in the ICU for a week. It was pretty bad. And from that, I was awarded $30,000 from a lawsuit, but I wasn't allowed to touch it until I was 18 years old. And so I never knew the account number on that. I never saw the money on that account, but I know the first time I ever wrote a check was to Chapman University for $30,000 to college. And, I was kind of told just take loans and do what you need to do. Like, this is what you do.
Right.
And I don't blame my parents for that. I think it's very typical, advice. It was
Yeah.
not good advice. It was definitely advice that would kick me in the butt later when I came out of
Yeah.
I went to a private university in California. It was like, go to the best school if you're going to go. And I had debated with my parents whether or not they were like, go for a real job. So I had applied for marine biology, but I wanted to be an actress. And so I got accepted. And then they had said, okay, we sat down and I said, no, really, I don't want to go to school for marine biology. I don't want to be a marine biologist. I want to go for acting. So they said, okay, let's get you into an acting school. At this time, I had had zero acting experience. And so I'm like, there's no way a college is going to accept me. And I wrote about this story in my book. I definitely feel like I was, a victim of just hitting a quota for a university because there's no way I should have gotten into this prestigious theater university. My audition, I completely flopped. And the school was $50,000 a year.
Wow.
So I walked out 4 years later with $120,000 in student loan debt. I don't know doctors who had that much debt. And so that burden of that financial decision for those 4 years came to haunt me for a long time in my life. I was working multiple jobs just to pay the $1,200 a month payment. And I was living in Los Angeles, which is one of the most expensive cities in the country. And I was barely making it. And my sister was trying to help me with my budget, and she helped me with the cash and envelope method. And what I didn't realize at the time is my sister was being so kind and so helpful, but she was broke herself. So she wasn't really where I wanted to be. And I was having this contrasting experience of working in retail. I was managing at some of the top premier locations or stores, streets for retail in the country. I was working on Beverly Drive, helping open up stores nationwide in Soho, New York. So I'm seeing celebrity clients and all these people. And I'm like, they don't use cash in envelopes. They don't cut up their credit cards, and at the same time, I'm eating top ramen and living in a cockroach-filled apartment. So I knew there had to be a different way to build wealth. And luckily for me, I've always zigged when other people zag. And I'm like, I can't do this. I am not going to live for 30 years at a job I don't like, trying to pay off all my debt. And only then am I going to live the life that I want to live. And so at the time, like I said, I was living in a cockroach-filled apartment, living paycheck to paycheck. I honestly felt like I was dying inside in every sense of the way. And I decided to hit the reset button on my life and moved to Montana with a guy I had just started dating who was also broke. This wasn't a Prince Charming story. Who was also broke and tired and didn't want to live in LA either. So we hit the reset button on our life. We moved to Montana. We get to Montana and he's like, okay, here's how we're going to break free. You think like, oh, a move, things will be different. Like,
Mhm.
yes, the cost of living went down significantly. I remember I put in a quarter in a parking machine in a meter in Montana and I got 10 hours. And I like called every friend I knew in LA and said, you will never believe this. Because I used to get so many parking tickets in LA that I actually had to sleep in my car so I wouldn't get any more because I couldn't afford them. And so it was super sad. And I'm like, I put in a quarter and there's 10 hours. I thought I died and went to heaven. And so I had moved and we got jobs and we're like, okay, things are gonna be different. But they weren't. We were still working our jobs, we were still barely getting by. And that's when we decided we have to do something different. And what's the number one factor when you look at successful people? There are two ways that most successful people make money and build wealth, and that's business and real estate. And
Mhm.
we're like, okay, let's do real estate. Let's start a real estate business. We had no money. He had bad credit. I was six figures in debt and we had no idea what we were doing. And we decided, let's flip a house. And so, we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like every other entrepreneur. And we learned about assets and liabilities. I learned to think differently about my debt. At the time, I had, so much guilt. I was told debt is wrong. Debt is bad. You shouldn't have any debt.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but the majority of people have debt. But you also told me to go to school and get a job. And I mean, who has that much cash? My parents didn't have that much cash.
Yeah.
So you're telling me one thing and then you're
Mhm.
shaming me for it, in another
Yeah.
way. And I honestly felt like no one's going to want to marry me. I'm a liability. And how sad is that marriage came
Yeah.
down to like a contract and not a covenant? And how sad that I would really believe that someone wouldn't marry me because of my debt. And it wasn't like I went and I had a gambling problem. It's student loan debt.
Right.
Like most people have that.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of guilt and a lot of undoing of beliefs around money and debt that I had to do when we did our first deal, because I was like, how are we going to get into real estate? We don't have money. I can't possibly get a loan or take out a loan. Like, that's more debt. Why would I do that? I'm already drowning in my debt. I would cry over my debt. Like, it was the burden of my life for like
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't imagine getting into more debt. But when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I understood that there are different types of debt and there are different types of uses of that debt. And I don't like to use good debt, bad debt terms. I don't like to give money feelings. And so I like to say leverage debt or consumer debt. So consumer debt obviously is the stuff that you put on a credit card that you can't afford, and you buy a boat or you buy a bag or whatever, you buy the things that you can't afford and that you likely don't need. Like, that's consumer debt. Then there's leverage debt. Leverage debt can make you a lot of money. And most successful, I would say, if not all, use debt. And so use this
Yeah.
leverage debt. So I
Mhm.
had to really undo that belief, which was very, very difficult on that first deal. And it ended up being that some of our first real estate deals that we did ended up paying my loans off in 3 years instead of 30.
Wow.
And that was a game changer for me. Of course, I felt a huge sense of relief to have that loan paid off. But at the same time, I'm in more debt now than I ever was then through real estate. And so for the last 13 years, we've been building up our real estate portfolio, and it's created enough passive income for us to be able to travel the world and do what we want, work on our own schedule, create different types of businesses, like at a very young age. And I didn't have to do that without cutting my coffee. I still
Yeah.
bought my lattes. I still traveled. I still made travel a priority in my life. I really just didn't buy into this idea that you work so hard and then only then when you retire can you see the world. And I wasn't willing to see the world through the window of a tour bus. I wanted to
Yeah.
be young, functional. I wanted to be able to really enjoy life and live it to its fullest, because I'm not promised tomorrow. But I wanted to do that smart. I didn't want to go get in debt and YOLO. That's not what that's
Right.
about. I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to build a business and passive income that allowed me to live life now and not later.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that led us. And, I became financially free at 34. And, I can retire right now if I want to, which is crazy. And it feels weird saying that. It honestly
Yeah.
feels so weird saying that even out loud. But I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that I took that risk. I'm grateful that I rewrote my money story, which is what I think is the start of any successful entrepreneurial journey is to rewrite the beliefs that you have around money.
Yeah.
So that's my journey.
Yeah, it's so powerful. A couple of things that you said that I wanted to point out, and just overall, like you said it multiple times. It was either I or we decided.
Hmm.
And I do think that's a big piece of entrepreneurship and just life. Like, you just decide. So many of us are in the land of indecision.
Hmm.
And like, is this the right way? Is this the wrong way? Should I do this? And should I do that? Like, we like should all over the place,
Yeah.
instead of having a decided heart and just deciding and being okay with some of the, I'm sure in the decisions that you made, some things worked and some things didn't work. It
Right.
wasn't like you decided and like all the stars aligned and everything went perfect.
No, I skipped a lot of highs and lows in that story just for the sake of time. I mean, there was a near bankruptcy in the middle of that story. There was,
Yeah. Yeah.
all sorts of stuff that comes with the risk of entrepreneurialism. But the thing that keeps us in indecision is fear. We're so
Yeah.
afraid of making the wrong decision.
Hmm.
And I think when I think back to that first moment of real estate, it just was so much fear of the unknown. Am I going to screw this up? Am I going to ruin my life, my credit, all this stuff?
Hmm.
And fear is interesting because most people
Hmm.
try to avoid the fear or they try to beat fear. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to conquer this fear. But fear is interesting because fear is necessary.
Mhm.
And I like thinking of fear that way because I feel like it takes away its power. When
Yeah.
you think about fear being necessary and it's always with you, you don't give it as much power over your life. And I don't remember, I think it might have been, I can't remember the book, but I remember she talked about fear and it being in the driver's seat. And I really like this analogy of like, okay, so fear is there to keep you alive. It
Yeah.
literally
Right.
helps us so that we don't like step in front of a car and get hit. It
Yeah.
helps us navigate these tough decisions in entrepreneurship of risk and
Mhm.
reward, right? It helps us avoid some of those things by inputting some logic and some good fear, but it's absolutely necessary, but it shouldn't be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So fear
Yeah.
keeps us alive. It's always with us. If
Hmm.
we're the driver and we recognize the fear when that comes up. So, okay, maybe you have some fear about some big business decision. Like maybe if you took a business loan, you could increase your inventory and you could make some larger sales or you could run some ads, but you're so afraid of the debt that you're not even looking at the opportunity that debt would give you to grow your business quicker, faster without your own cash. Like there's so many good reasons and there's so many good business loans out there. And so you have this fear like, okay, but what if I make the wrong decision? Will it hurt my family? Am I going to have to tap into my retirement? What's my husband going to think? What if I fail? You have all this fear, right?
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
let that consume you, you have fear in the driver's seat of your life. And absolutely, anytime that fear is in the driver's seat, you're going to feel spun out of control. You're not going to be able to make
Yeah.
decisions. So you have to put fear in the passenger seat of your life. And you have to
Yeah.
be able to look at it, like give fear a name, like Sally. Hey, Sally,
Yeah.
I see you over there. I
Yeah.
hear you, and I know you're trying to keep me safe right now, but I really know I've ran the numbers. I'm making a good decision,
Yeah.
and I recognize that you're there to keep me safe, but I'm good. I got this. I'm in the driver's seat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And you never walk into any business adventure or investment without fear. It doesn't exist. Everybody has this same feeling of failure but the moment we take back control and we say, no, 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 I'm in the driver's seat. I've got
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
It just gives fear less power over your life. And also you stop running from it because you're never going to outrace fear. Another
Yeah.
thing that I like to think of with fear and that indecision is I like to use fear as a compass.
Hmm.
I kind of see it as like sometimes when I'm feeling so fearful about a decision, it's almost an indicator that it's the right decision.
Hmm.
I still think you have to do your due diligence in anything,
Right.
but nothing comes without risk. But again, it's like, okay, I can see where that fear is creeping in, but sometimes that fear is the compass that's like, you need to go into this. You need to walk into this. And I'm a believer. I also feel like God sometimes calls you into things that you're not ready for, you're not qualified for. In fact, usually all the time. And there's a little bit of a level of having to rely on him when you're
Oh,
building
yeah.
something really big and in his
Yeah.
wheelhouse. It's
Yeah.
like I think about the Israelites when they're wandering around in the desert or taking over different lands when they get into the promised land. It's like he always made him go into battle with no armor, with no battlefield equipment, because it was complete
Yeah.
reliance on him. And that's
Yeah.
part of the test. And the thing is you are going to fail. You are going to make mistakes. But
Yeah.
those are some of the greatest learning lessons that you could possibly have. And it's not failure, it's learning. I wish that we gave failure also less power, right? Like the fear
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
and the failure less power, and walk more in that faith, because yeah, I think that that fear of failure is so strong that it keeps us from actually doing the thing that we're called to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on
No,
fear? And
I mean, those that have been following me here on the podcast, they know, I took a huge leap of faith leaving my 16-year career with direct sales, and it did not make sense on paper
mm-hmm.
at all. Financially, nothing. I mean, it just did not make sense, but I knew that's where God was calling me to. And, for such a time as this, and that was pretty much all he said. And I'm like, but where am I going? And he didn't tell me. I was like, this is not comfortable.
Don't you wish that God gave you the entire map to your
Oh, I
life
prayed
whenever
for
you're
the
like,
entire
yeah,
blueprint and map and everything. And finally I was like, he's not giving it to me. So I need to stop praying about that. And so then I was just like, just eliminate my next step.
yeah,
Just eliminate my next step and
yeah,
help me to obey the next step.
yeah,
And I mean, that again is just an incredible faith journey that I've been on. But I do agree, like having emotional resilience and emotional safety, being able to create those emotional safety within yourself. So you're not afraid to feel fear. You're not afraid to feel the failure. You're not afraid to feel disappointed or rejected. That's just part of entrepreneur. It's part of life.
yeah,
We get so fearful, to your point, and so we're like, well, I'm probably going to be disappointed or I'm probably going to fail, so I'm just going to not even go in that direction. And how many cures and innovations and businesses and dreams are on the table of indecision, right? Or on the table or been blocked by fear.
yeah,
And there's just so many. I've seen it over and over and over again. I've experienced it myself too. And so I'm like you, like I honestly like to put my fear in the back seat, strapped into the car seat, because that's all. It's the 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. And
I love that.
I'm like, if my 2-year-old was having a temper tantrum, I didn't leave him on the side of the road,
Yeah,
so I could go run the rest of my errands. I just strapped him in the back of the seat. I'm like, all right, he's just going to have to say what he needs to say, and I'm going to keep on
yeah,
about my day. And so
yeah,
that's kind of how I choose to see fear too. And again, it really does just block the blessings of
hmm
our calling. It blocks the blessings of wealth and abundance and
right.
all of those things. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And honestly, for my listeners, I guess it would be in the fear category, but it's this like unworthiness of success and unworthiness of money, and money's going to change me, and what are people going to think when I become successful, and am I going to change? And I'm probably a fear of, will it change me, because they've
Yeah,
seen people who were changed for the not the good, with
yeah,
success. So
yeah,
can you speak a little bit to that, maybe the worthiness of
yeah.
success? And I know specifically for the women of faith as well, it's just like, no, I need to stay humble and I need to play small and play little. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not what he says.
Yeah.
Hey, friend, can I give you permission today? Like, for real, your own permission slip. Permission to get clear, to cut out the noise, mostly the noise that is going on around in your own mind, in your own head. It's just swirling. And you're asking yourself questions like, why am I stuck? Why am I frustrated? Why am I not making progress on my goals? I want to invite you to a free clarity call with me where we're going to dive in and we're going to identify what are the 3 main issues that are keeping you stuck. Number 2, what are the mindsets around those issues that are actually keeping you from solving for those issues? It's not our skill sets, it's our mindsets that keep us stuck and hold us back. And then number 3, identifying what are your next steps. We all have a next step, and we have 100% responsibility for those next steps. Your only next step right now is to go to the show notes and book your free clarity call so that we can work through this. I'm believing in you, and I cannot wait to see you on our clarity call.
No, I literally just read the entire Bible last year. Like, not just read it, studied the entire Bible last year. I ended up putting a lot of scripture in my book, and There's not a single verse in there that says God wants you to be broke. So just putting that out there. Actually, my husband, he also, a little shameless plug, is he actually wrote a book called Bible Money Secrets. So if you really want to go into depth with several pastors and really go into depth about what does God actually say about money in the Bible, money, wealth, and possessions, Bible Money Secrets by Ryan Mix is a game changer. I quote it in my own book. It was a huge study resource for me as well. But first, I would say let's address well, I've seen people change with money, so I must not have money because I might change. Money doesn't change people. Money magnifies who you already are.
Yeah.
So if your core of your being is already selfish and greedy and you come into money, you're going to see a lot of selfish and greed, right?
Yeah.
But if you're asking yourself or if you're concerned at all, even the littlest bit that you might change because of money, you are not a greedy person.
Yeah.
That is not how greedy people think. They're just greedy. They're selfish and they only think in themselves. They don't even realize it. So I always say, like, if you're already feeling like, I don't want to become greedy or this or that or materialistic, you're the perfect person for God to pick to bring abundance into your life. Okay.
Yeah.
Because money is meant to move through you, not stop at you.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the perfect person. And I think God is calling his people to he gives you every opportunity. Don't get me wrong here. Like, he doesn't promise prosperity, but he gives you every opportunity to prosper.
Yeah.
And he's testing you with it. It's the only thing he says to test me with. So how you are with what you have right now. And I think what's so cool is I think God tests us with money because it's so revealing. It is so revealing of your fears, your worthiness, your obedience. When in times when you don't have it, are you holding on with tight fists, or are you able to release? Because again, like, if you're closed up, he's not going to keep feeding you.
Yeah, that's right.
But
you can't
if you're
receive
open,
what's next if your hands are closed. You can't receive something next. If your hands
can't
are closed.
receive. You can only receive when they're open. So like, he's testing so many different levels of our character to align with him. And when we are aligned, he will give us more. He says it. Like, why wouldn't he use you as a vessel for this thing? And the thing is, you should care about money. You should care about money because God cared about money. There are more scriptures about money, wealth, and possessions than hell, the second coming, and prayer combined.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was like 1/4 of Jesus's teachings were about wealth, possessions. And it's like, that would mean every fourth service at your church would be talking about money, and not just like, hey, we have a fundraiser or raising money for this thing. They'd be teaching you about money. So it is important. I think that that's the first step, is just realizing, like, money is absolutely valuable and important. Money is a tool in this world that can do a lot of good things. And it's simply that. It's a tool. It's always comes down to your heart. When it's like the number one misquoted Bible verse is money is the root of all evil. Yeah. It is not true. The Bible verse actually reads, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. That is very different because it comes down to greed and how that can lead to all kinds of different evil. And we see that with drugs and, all sorts of things that can go that way. Yeah. But that's not the average person, and it's definitely not his people. So can you master this tool and be so faithful and obedient and grow with this tool from when you don't have it to when you have a lot of it, in a way that you can literally be a blessing for people? Because you're blessed to be a blessing. God doesn't say, I'm going to bless you so that you can keep it and do you. No, you're blessed to be a blessing. And that's the whole point of it moving through you. And guess what? Everybody needs to run an organization, that nonprofit you love, the things you want to give back to. You want to pay off your parents' house. You want to provide education for your kids. It all requires this tool, money. Yeah. So even Jesus's mission, I say this in my book too, even Jesus's mission, okay, to like literally show the world who he is, required money. Yeah. He still had to pay taxes. He still had to buy food, shelter, clothing, and all the apostles. And that 3.5-year mission, guess who that was funded by? Primarily, marketplace women. Marketplace women, women who had influence, women who had money, and women who were aligned with the mission and were very generous. And I just think that's so cool. Because I do think that women are wired for contribution.
Mm.
Not that men aren't. This is not I'm not a radical feminist. I love men. I
Yeah.
love my husband, and it's all about teamwork. Men are more wired towards competition and provision for their family first. That's always more important. That's why like women are like, no, just give this and we'll just give
Right.
this away. And they're like protecting their unit. That's just how they're wired. And it's a bit of a competition in how they measure themselves in life. Women aren't really like that. We're not like, oh, how many zeros do you have in your bank account?
Yeah.
We don't care about that. We care
Yeah.
about using that to help others, whether that's ourself, our family, our communities, organizations. Like that's what we're wired for. I really believe that. And so I get really inspired by women in the marketplace, what we can do, how we can fund the causes that all require money to
Yeah.
actually meet the need. And it shows a lot of love. It shows a lot of love to people when you bless them with money.
Yeah.
And there's not a single person on this earth who's struggling financially that couldn't use a little extra money.
Yeah.
That, like, wouldn't be
Yeah.
super appreciative of that money. So,
Right. Yeah.
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 And then let's talk about worthiness. That's the last one I wanted to touch on that was I do think it comes down to it's not like, oh, I shouldn't have money or debt is wrong or some of these things that are hanging you up. It's really not that. It does come down to, am I worth it? Do I believe I'm worthy of it? And that is another lesson I think that God is teaching us through wealth and business and all these things. And I think it's to show you that you are, not that having it like makes you worthy, having money or abundance. It's if you never believe that you're worth anything, I just don't think you'll ever be open to receiving the fullness that God has for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's where God uses this thing to help us evolve to be more like him. And
Mm-hmm.
when you deny the blessing and you say, I'm not worthy of it,
Mm-hmm.
you're denying God. Like
Mm-hmm.
truly, you're denying him. That's actually a sin right there. You're denying his blessing. And I just think that that's so unnecessary. And are we doing it because we don't want, like, we're worried about what other people will think? We're worried about failure. We're just worried about how it might change us. Those are all like non-existent real problems. It's not really a problem.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
absolutely you are worthy. Can you imagine God looking at you right now and being like, you know what? You're just not worthy. You're not enough. Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's not the
Yeah.
money that makes you enough. It's literally choosing him and all that too.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
You can't like buy your way into heaven. But if you could see yourself like God sees you, like
Mm-hmm.
your family sees you, like your
Yeah.
husband sees you, I think that you could shift your perspective and walk into something that is so much more freeing. And we've all been there. We've all felt it. We've all felt unworthy.
Yeah.
But if we could free ourselves of that one thing, what could we really do?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of an impact could we make?
It's true. I mean, I see all the time also like the worthiness being attached to their productivity and performance. If I'm
Yeah.
performing at this level, then I'm worthy,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to be performing at this level or be this productive or I'm not worthy. Not even just of money, but just like worthy of breath. I mean,
Right.
it's amazing the
Right.
identity and of production and performance to someone's identity. And I've been down that road before, so I know what that feels like. So we're not saying any of this stuff to shame anybody who's feeling the way that
No.
we're feeling right now. I think the number one thing is just the awareness. Like
Yeah.
if you are having some of these beliefs about money or beliefs about yourself, like there's a reason that the Lord's bringing that up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's wanting you to work through that, not shove it under the rug for another day or sweep it under the rug or avoid it. Like, let's just hit that head on and let's like, where is that coming from? Why is that coming up for you? And, is it something that was taught to you? Is it something that you learned, over time with the people that you've been around? And so
Yeah.
let's again, bring it back to the word and the truth, but don't push it away, lean into
Yeah.
it. What I like
Yeah.
is lean into those thoughts and those emotions that are coming up for you because there's a reason that they're coming up. There's a cleansing that needs to happen.
Yeah. And there's not an amount of anything you could do or any amount of money that will ever make you feel worthy. That has
Yeah.
to come from the Lord.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
has to come from the Lord first,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so it's not that money, success, or hustle, or, an award or a milestone. None of that will ever look at how many people you look up to that get to that point and get burnt out and they're empty because
Yeah.
they don't have God. So like,
Yeah.
if you don't find your worthiness in him first,
Yeah.
there's no amount of success or money that's actually going to change that for you, literally
Yeah.
ever. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a bit of a relief. So let it go. Let it
Yeah.
go. Find your worthiness in him alone and
Hmm.
ask him, what am I supposed to do with my hands and my feet? How do I serve and love others? What am I good at? Those are the questions you should be asking yourself. Like, what am I uniquely created to do? But don't get stuck in like, there's only one thing. I think that's
Yeah.
hard for women too. We're very multifaceted
Yeah.
and everybody's like, niche down, do this, blah, blah, blah. And you
Yeah.
have to commit to the next 30 years of your life doing this one thing. And I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think it's committing to the thing right now and seeing what
Yeah.
doors open up. And you can't plan your 30-year plan. You can barely even plan 3 years. Look at
Yeah.
like 2018. Could any of us have known what was coming in 2020?
Yep.
No,
Right.
it
No.
changed
Yeah.
everybody's plan. So it's being faithful today. You know, I have a tattoo on my foot that says walk by faith that we talked about. You
Yeah.
could go in fear or faith.
Yep.
And the whole point I have it on my foot is take one step. Take one step
Yeah.
towards the thing he's calling you, nudging you, that little hint, that little like, ooh, that I say follow your jealous, that little thing that you might see someone else doing that you're like, wait, why does that feel like, why am I a little
Yeah.
jealous there?
Yeah.
Because it might
Yeah.
be something that you're supposed to do and you're seeing them do it because they're honoring and being obedient and working towards that. And you're not.
Yeah.
So just like follow those little nudges, follow those little hints and see what will open, see what
Yeah.
will happen. But you're absolutely going to find your worth in him and him alone.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. We are on the same page with that. So you were talking about like just taking like a next step. And if there's someone who's listening and maybe their goal for 2025 is around their finances and is around whether it be budgeting or thought work, belief work around their money, like like a tangible next step someone could take after they're listening to this, like to
Yeah.
either get a good look at all their finances or like they know where their finances are, but they want to grow it. Like what's something that you can give them? Do you have like a step process or?
Yeah, I would highly recommend that you download my 5-step money planner, which is free for
Yeah.
you. If you go
Okay.
to janinemix.com/mompreneurs,
Okay.
you can get a bunch of free resources there. I would get my book if you want to break through your money beliefs. And I want to share a little bit about that right now. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say the first thing is most people don't know where their money is. You might be stressing out for no reason. I've seen that happen where someone filled out this money planner. And I don't like the word budget. I think budgets are broken. They're like diets, they're
Yeah.
restrictive.
Yeah.
And I really think the game changer, most people will focus on cutting out the latte and the expenses and all that. I'm more about focusing on the other side of your budget category, which is your income. It has the greatest chance to change your life. So focus your time there. That's why I wrote the book Buy the Damn Coffee. It's a movement away from the small, insignificant purchase that literally tell me what millionaire, billionaire has ever said, I became successful because I skipped my lattes. Literally no one. So
Right.
it's a movement away from that, the small, insignificant purchases to a bigger picture on your money. And the very first thing you have to do is like know where you are.
Yeah.
And that can create a lot of anxiety. So I want to share a tip for you that can create a lot of anxiety. I used to get so angry around pulling together my money plan and seeing the money that I spent last month. And I just had so many emotions that came out of it. And I had to work through those. So you can download my 5-step money planner. It's a great place to just get a year view monthly on like you can categorize your fixed, fluctuating, and what I call OFudge money and get a good idea of a plan. It's a financial plan, not a budget, because money changes. And hopefully from
Yeah.
that plan, you're going to see what you need to do to increase. And there's lots of exercises. There's a video on that, a free little training on that too. So first, you have to do that. That is revealing, and it absolutely requires you getting very real with yourself and being honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to go. If you don't know that, which it's a 5-step money planner, there's goals in there too. If you don't know where you are and where you want to go, you're going to keep doing the same thing year after year and be unhappy.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing. Now, let me share with you a tip for getting through the beliefs you have around money. I like to share my mixed shift framework.
Okay.
So, first of all, what is the message that you are telling yourself around money? So, Martine, like, what's a message that I talk in my book about 3 money influencers? What did you hear or learn or experience growing up from a parent or someone influential? What's something that you heard that you still kind of believe today around money? What's a message around money? We've said a few like debt is wrong or money makes
You
you
got to work
greedy.
hard for it. Like, I mean,
You got to
again,
work hard.
we definitely, I mean, I've always kind of prided myself on my work ethic, but I do notice where that comes into the
Yeah.
belief around money too sometimes. So, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like having money means you have to work really hard to earn it.
hmm Okay, so that's the message. That's the M in the message is you've got to work hard for money. I
Yes.
definitely, I grew up with working parents too, and it's like, but we both know that that can lead us into overworking and
Yeah.
never getting satisfied from how much we put in, right? Because
Yeah.
we're
Nothing's ever enough. Yeah.
right, nothing's ever enough. And there's only so much time you can sell,
Yeah.
which is why you have to invest if you actually want to break free financially. So the message that you're telling yourself, and many of you listening are definitely feeling this too, is you have to work hard for money. Is that true? Is the I. So the M and then the I. Is
Yeah.
that true?
Hmm.
Like you have to really ask yourself, is it true that you have to work hard for money? Because
Yeah.
I know some people who flip like furniture on Facebook and they don't even like do much with it. And they have like $1 million business from that. They're not working that hard. I know YouTubers that are blowing up stuff that are making millions of dollars a video. That's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really have
Yeah.
to work hard.
Hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that true? So that's what you have to ask yourself. The next is the X in the mix shift. And the X is cross out that first message, which is you have to work hard for money. What would you rather be telling yourself?
Yeah.
What do you think, Martine? What would you rather tell yourself? Anytime that thing comes up is like, I got to work hard for money today. What would you rather, what's the message you would rather be telling yourself?
Money is readily available and coming to me every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So anytime we have, and you can use this mix shift framework for literally anything in your life, but
Yeah.
anytime we have that belief, like I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Is it true? Yeah, you're a little afraid, but are you going to, have you made every wrong decision in your life?
Yeah.
No. So
Right.
what's the message you'd rather tell yourself?
Hmm. Yeah.
I can make strategic, data informed decisions for my
Yeah.
future, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to change the message that you're telling yourself. The same with I'm not worthy of money. Like I'm just not worthy of I'll never be that. I used to think like that's only for the lucky few. That's not
Yeah.
ever going to be me. That's the lucky people. There's like some secret that they know. Is that true? Is it true? Like
Yeah.
no, because
No, it's
no one
not.
was born with financial knowledge,
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, so we all have the same opportunity to learn it. So the message I'd rather tell myself is I'm learning more about money every week, every day. Every time I pick up an article or listen to a podcast, I'm learning more and more every day. I'm becoming more confident financially. So when you're doing your 5-step money planner and when you're going through your money, what is the message that's coming up for you? And if it is like I have to work hard for money, I have to work 3 jobs, then you need to work through that. Like, do you need the 3 jobs or is it the fear of control? Like I need to know I have this amount of money coming in all the time. Okay, but when do you want to retire? Like you need to be thinking about these things. That's the thing too, is people don't know where they want to go. As
Yeah.
important it is to know where you are, you need to know where you want to go. Because if you want to retire in 10 years and you're not doing anything and you're not investing or whatever, you have to change how your money works for you. Not
Right.
you working for money. You have to figure that out and you can. And many people have. You are not alone. You're not the only person in the world who can't figure out how to invest.
Yeah.
Like you can figure it out. It's very easy. If you want to invest in stock markets, super easy. If you want to invest in real estate, you can learn there's a million different ways that you can make money in real estate. So
Yeah.
like figure out how to multiply your money. That is the game changer with your finances that is actually going to lead to the life that you want to live. You know, there's a lot of things online like make passive income through online and through business. And like, yes, that's true. You can build up a course and you can sell that. I've made multiple 6 figures on a course. Like it's passive in the sense that you build it once and then you just sell it and market it, but you still have to use your time. Look at this week, TikTok shut down and so
Yeah.
many people were freaking out and they should be. If your entire income is
Yeah.
coming off of this one platform, you should be freaking out because what happened? They had active income that is no longer active. Active income is great. A lot of the times, if not always, you have to start there. It's
Yeah.
what your job is. It's active income. It's you putting forth the effort to make the money. If you're not turning that active income into passive income, you are robbing your future. You will never be able to retire. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million in the bank account, you're going to need several million to retire. And
Yeah.
so, like, I thought about that with all this TikTok madness, and people were bawling and crying. And
Yeah.
again, rightfully so, because
Yeah.
they've worked so hard and to have that money like gone.
Yeah.
But that just showed me you're not doing anything smart to take that money to make you money while you sleep. Like outside of what you're doing, you need to
Yeah.
move that money into another venture that is multiplying and working for you. And it's boring. It's not sexy. It's, stock markets are boring and they take a while. Honestly, most of my rental properties are so boring. I would never even talk about them on social media. I'm not doing like luxury Airbnbs that look nice on,
Right.
no, I have
Yeah.
boring basic rentals that pay me every month like clockwork that don't require TikTok,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, you have to be able to take that active income. You have to figure out one vehicle, start with one. Don't try to all of a sudden do crypto and stock market and now I'm going to flip houses. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Focus on one active income source. This is your profit center. You take that income that you make from that profit center and you figure out one vehicle to multiply it
Yeah.
first. No one ever is like, whenever you hear people are like, I have multiple streams of income, they start and master one. Once
Yeah.
you have enough money, then you can diversify. But
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about all that right now. If you're not doing
Yeah.
one, maximizing your profit center, making that active income work for you, whether that's in your job, asking for a raise, like in your business, paying yourself in your company, like all those things. Focus on that one profit center and maximize it. Take the money from that profit center and multiply it over here into one vehicle for financial freedom.
Yeah.
If you could just
Yeah.
do that shift,
Mhm.
even if it's a
Yeah.
little, you might say, oh, well, I don't have anything left over, or I only have $100 at the end of the month. Every little bit counts. Every
Yeah.
little bit counts. And
You
it's
gotta get
part of
started
just,
somewhere. You just have to
yep,
get started somewhere.
just have to start. It's part of getting disciplined and paying yourself first, which is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would do. And, my 5-step money planner goes over some goals and just organizing your money. Just know where your money's at. Most people don't know where their money's at or where their husband's 401k is, or like they don't even have a will. What would happen if you die? Like, like it's
Yeah.
crazy how ill prepared we really are. My mission is to kind of help improve that so you actually do feel free, because you can have a bunch of money in the bank account and still have a lot of fear because you
Yeah.
don't have things in place. You don't have investments in place. You don't know where all the money is. I do watch some of these influencers on YouTube that are like, my parents manage my money. I have no idea. And I'm like,
And you're like, oh, you're
oh,
twitching.
I'm like, you're not learning either. I mean, even if you
Yeah.
have
True.
an abundance coming in, you're not learning and you need to learn. The biggest thing you could do for yourself as a parent is teach your kids about money. Have money conversations. I always say money moves Monday. Do something every Monday. Maybe that's just a conversation with your kids. Maybe it's reading an article and sharing that with your kids. Do something every Monday to increase your financial confidence and IQ, and incorporate your family in that, and you will become more confident around money. If you aren't having those conversations and you're working your butt off to build a business, guess what? Most people will lose that wealth in less than 2 generations. So it's really the knowledge that transfers. It'd be nice to
Yeah.
set your family up with money too. Absolutely. But it's the knowledge that transfers. You can give
Yeah.
them the money and they have no idea what to do with it and it's gone. So if
Yeah.
you really want generational wealth, you got to start breaking through your own beliefs and then also influencing your family. Rising tide lifts all ships. Influencing your family, your parents, your siblings, their kids, like raising them up because you're sharing an abundance of knowledge around business and investing. And that starts with, one money moves Monday at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, we could sit here and talk for another 2 hours. There's so
I
much
know.
about when it
I
comes
know.
to money. So I know people they're going to go and get the freebie from you for sure. But
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your book and where can people connect with you if they have questions or if they want to connect with you. Just where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah. So definitely go to janinemix.com/mompreneurs. There's some freebies on there for you. Also, you can get my book there. My book is called Buy the Damn Coffee: How Women of Faith Remove Shame and Guilt Around Money. It's really a transformative book. It's a movement. It will help you break the beliefs around money. It'll help you understand there's a whole chapter on marriage and money, whether you're in a marriage or want to be married. It's an incredible chapter. There's so much on there about your calling and what God says about money. It's definitely my number one resource, I think. Grab that 5-step money planner and then just connect with me on Instagram, Janine
Yeah.
Mix. Like, I'm a real person. I want to know what stood out to you in this call. And I'm happy to answer questions and be your new internet bestie. Like, I definitely love connecting one-on-one with people. Someone actually just messaged me that they were doing a book club with my book. And I'm like, that's amazing. Hey, by
Yeah.
the way, I'll go live with your book club group. And she couldn't believe it. And I was like, I want to connect with the readers. I'm sure you feel
Yeah.
that way too. You want
Yeah.
to connect with your listeners. Sometimes this like virtual space feels so lonely. I don't want to do that. I want to create a space, a safe space for people to ask questions, to connect and like actually connect with other female entrepreneurs who want to change
Yeah.
the world. I really believe my mission is more money in the hands of women will change the world. And
Yeah.
like, who's coming with me?
Yeah. We're all coming with you. We're all coming
Yeah.
with you. We're all linking arms, right? We're all doing
Right.
lining up with what God's called us to do. And I can tell you're super passionate about this. So I know we're going to put the links to everything in the show notes for everyone. But thank you so much for just being vulnerable and being willing to share some of your story. And of course, your amazing tips that you shared with them. So everybody go run to the show notes and grab her freebie, grab her book. We have a book club too. So I might be hitting you up on that live
Definitely.
book club. So, well, thanks again, Janine, for coming on. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. All right, friends, I'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.